I want to share something else with you, but it's going to take me just a second. So bear with me 1 second. I'll be right back. I promise I'll be right back. Don't anybody go anywhere. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Now, I am wearing one of my Bruins jerseys. I think it's Cam Neely. Yeah, it's Cam Neely. It was worn at the Winter Classic not terribly long ago. And the reason I'm wearing my Bruins jersey is because I want to talk about a guy named Brad Marchand. So, Brad Marchand is a player for the Bruins. He's originally from Halifax here, from the Halifax area, from a little corner of Halifax called Hammonds Plains. His family still lives here. I think his dad owns a construction company or something. But Brad Marchand he's a star for the Bruins. I think he's their captain right now. And he can score goals, he can get assists, he can hit, he can skate, he's fast, he's quick, but he's also a pest. There's no denying it. He gets under people's skin. And in the last game, the Bruins won 4-2. Toronto was up 1-0, I believe. And Marchand was getting into it. He was getting real chippy with a player from the Leafs named Tyler Bartuzzi. Now, Bartuzzi used to play for the Bruins last year. And my guess is Marchand was using what he knew about him to really drive him just a little bit nuts. And again, he's chippy, he's pushing him, he's hitting him, he's giving him a little stick work. And at one point, the two of them are tangled up. Bartuzzi goes down. Another Bruins player skates up the ice, takes a shot, and scores. And the Toronto coach he's quite upset by this. Marchand's getting away with all this stuff. It's not fair that he's getting away with all this stuff. He shouldn't be getting away with all this stuff, so on and so forth. So I was watching the play. I was watching one of the highlights of the games, and they were showing, the two of them are tangled up. Bartuzzi and Marchand are tangled up, and they're chipping at each other, and they're pushing each other, and they're shoving each other, and they're trying to trip one another, and they're trying to wrap each other up. And then Bartuzzi goes down, and it may well have been a trip. It may well have been, but Bartuzzi gets up right away, and he goes right back at Marchand again, and then the goal is scored. And as I'm watching this, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, so he might have been tripped. Trent Fredericks is the guy that scored the goal. He's coming up the other side of the ice. But Bartuzzi goes after Marchand again. It just reminded me, and I'm not saying this is what Bartuzzi did, and I'm not saying that he was responsible for the goal. It's just a thought that popped into my head. It was a thought that watching those two go at each other inspired, which was basically this. Keep your eye and keep your attention and keep your focus on the thing that is most important in the moment. Again, this isn't a talk saying, I'm not sitting here critiquing what Bartuzzi did or what Marchand was doing, nothing like that. It's just simply watching those two scrum it out on the ice reminded me that we always have to keep our eyes on the most important thing. And that sometimes in our world, the urgent thing is what grabs our attention. The loud thing is what grabs our attention. The scary thing is what grabs our attention. But those might not be the most important things. They may not be the most important things. That in fairness, they might just be the thing that's captivated us. Now, I was talking to my wife about this, and she shared a line from her training, and I don't know who said it. She couldn't remember who said it either, but the line was, where focus goes, energy flows. We want to make sure that we're giving all of our energy to the most important things. We want to make sure we're giving all of our energy to the thing that's going to make the most difference. We want to make sure we're giving all of our energy to the thing that's going to have the most impact. And because if we don't, Because if we don't, well, the urgent thing, the scary thing, they'll take all of our energy from us. Because we'll never really satisfy them. Because in fairness, something is urgent because we feel it's urgent. Something is scary because we feel it to be scary. And we're not going to feel it's less scary, and we're not going to feel that it's less urgent no matter how much energy we put into it. I was telling you earlier about my son's house. I'm probably going, because I'm scared of what I'm going to find, I'm not going to feel any better until I see what's in there, what's inside that wall, what needs to be fixed. Right? I'm not going to feel any better until I get in there. The fear is not going to go away. The anxiety is not going to go away. The sense of urgency is not going to go away. But with that being said, as Christians, you might say, well, as people of faith, as people of love, you might say, well, okay, Ed, how do we know the difference between what's important and what's urgent and what's scary? Well, those are great questions. If I think about God, and I think about what God's taught us and what God calls us to, I think about something from Micah. Micah chapter 6. Now, we all know verse 8, but the first two verses here, so it's Micah chapter 6, verses 6 through 8. Micah, the prophet says, "With what shall I come before the Lord and bow down before the exalted God? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves of a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams and 10,000 rivers of olive oil? Shall I offer my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." Sometimes we can become very fixated on being obedient, on being holy. We can become very fixated on the behaviors of our neighbors and those in our communities. We can come to see ourselves as the morality police, the people who are here to make sure that you and everyone around us are living the way we think you should live, even though we might not be living that way ourselves. We focus on things as Christians. We focus on things like buildings, on structures, and on doodads. We focus on traditions and liturgies. All good, but is it what we're called to focus on? We can focus sometimes, get really devious, and we'll focus on feeding people. A good thing, but not the focus. We can focus on matters of social improvements. Again, it's a good thing. But what are we supposed to be focused on? Well, that tells us what we're supposed to be focused on. That tells us what we're supposed to be focused on. He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? You act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. This is our focus. Everything comes from this. Feeding people comes from this. Better communities come from this. Justice, like real justice in our society, the building of more equitable systems and structures come from this. All things would come from this if we focused on living this way. So for us, my prayer would be, we stop worrying about the loud phone. We stop worrying about the loud stuff. We stop worrying about the things that we're scared of. We stopped worrying about the things that are urgent. Right? Stop worrying about the things that are screaming for our attention, and instead just worry about the things that God asks us to focus on. spend our time and our energy on justice and on mercy and on ensuring that we are walking humbly with God. Beyond that, everything else will fall into place. Focus on what's best, and everything else will fall into place. You'll see everything around you as important or not. You'll see what is loud. You'll see what is scary. You'll see what demands or decides for itself, or you'll see what is trying to command your attention. Those things that claim to be urgent. And you'll see them for what they really are. Something that's trying to distract you. Something that's trying to keep you away from the puck. You'll see them for what they are. You'll see them as a pest, a nuisance, an annoyance. Something that is literally just simply trying to keep you from doing the things that God is asking you to do. They're going to keep you from making this world a better place, while telling you the whole time that taking care of them will make this world a better place. Amen.